So, all right. So, we're getting started in Genesis chapter 37. So, if you have your Bibles, just turn there with me. This comes right after the genealogy of Esau, right? The father of the Edomites. And we're going right into the story of Joseph. So we have Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Jacob is the father of the 12 tribes of Israel. Joseph, at this point, is his youngest son, though he'll later have one more son named Benjamin. I'm just going to see if anyone's online. It looks like we don't have anyone online. But that's okay. So just a reminder that we start at 5:00 p.m. in California time. And if you want to join us live, you can join us on YouTube, on our YouTube channel. You can go to restorationcoc.org or churchofchrist.gay. And there will be a link there on our homepage. So you can join us for Bible study at 5 p.m. on Wednesdays. And any questions you have about the Bible, just type them into the chat, and I'm more than happy to answer them. And we may even discuss them, around the table. Right now, I'm the only one around the table today. So hopefully some people join us online and we can have a bit of a discussion here. So chapter 37, it says, Jacob lived in the land of his father's travels, in the land of Canaan. This is the history of the generations of Jacob. Joseph being 17 years old. So right away, it says this is the history of the generations of Jacob. And when it said that about Esau, right, we got the whole family history, the whole family tree, generation after generation. But here, it just goes into a story about Joseph. All right, Joseph, being 17 years old, was feeding the flock with his brothers. He was a boy with the sons of Bilhah and Zilpah, his father's wives. Joseph brought an evil report of them to their father. Now, Israel loved Joseph more than all his children, because he was the son of his old age, and he made him a tunic of many colors. So right here is where our Bibles might disagree, is what is the tunic of many colors? And this is a Hebrew word that only shows up twice in the whole Bible. And it shows up here, but also when David gives a dress to his daughter. And that dress is not translated as tunic of many colors. It's translated as something like a dress fit for a princess. So it's the same word. We could just as easily translate this that Israel loved Joseph more than all his children because he was the son of his old age, and he made him a princess dress. So there's a lot of different meanings behind this that we could bring out and discuss. One might be that Jacob loves his son not only as a son, but as a father views his daughters. That certainly happens, right? That We see that a lot in fiction, where we see a character who's grumpy because their father raised them as a boy or as a girl because they really wanted a boy or they really wanted a girl. And, that may be what's happening here. It may also have to do with Joseph's identity. Joseph may be a trans woman. We don't really know. That wasn't really a concept that could be expressed in Hebrew at that time. So we're really just left with, why does he give his son a dress, and why does his son wear that dress everywhere? Excuse me a moment. All right. Sorry about that. So there's certainly a lot of different ways we could read this. And that's something that, if it has special meaning to you, really meditate on it. Think about it. How does it make you feel? We could think about the idea of a favored child. We could think about the idea of Joseph's gender not matching his assigned gender at birth. We could think about his father really wanting a child that was a different gender. Or, is it just what it seems on its face? Is it just a really pretty robe? As Freud said, sometimes a cigar is just a cigar. But there's a lot of different ways that we could think about this tunic being meaningful. But the way that is obvious, and the way that I will finish with, is the obvious meaning that he is the favored child. You notice that Joseph is not only the favored child, he's also kind of a snitch, according to verse 2, that he brings an evil report about his brothers to their father. And then we see that this gift really just rubs that in. It really just makes it worse, all the worse. In verse 4, we see his brothers saw that their father loved him more than all his brothers, and they hated him and couldn't speak peaceably to him. Joseph dreamt a dream, and he told it to his brothers, and they hated him all the more. He said to them, "Please hear this dream which I have dreamt, for behold, we were binding sheaves in the field, and behold, my sheaf rose and also stood upright, and behold, your sheaves came around and bowed down to my sheaf." His brothers asked him, "Will you indeed reign over us? Will you indeed have dominion over us?" They hated him all the more for his dreams and for his words. He dreamt yet another dream and told it to his brothers and said, "Behold, I have dreamt yet another dream, and behold, the sun and the moon and 11 stars bowed down to me." He told it to his father and to his brothers. His father rebuked him and said to him, "What is this dream that you have dreamt? Will I and your mother and your brothers indeed come to bow ourselves down to the earth before you?" His brothers envied him, but his father kept this saying in mind. His brothers went to feed their father's flock in Shechem. Israel said to Joseph, "Aren't your brothers feeding the flock in Shechem? Come, and I will send you to them." He said to him, "Here I am." Now, "here I am" is this phrase that we see repeated throughout the stories of the patriarchs, right? Abraham says this to God when Abraham is called. Isaac does the same thing when God calls to him, and also when he hears his father Abraham calling to him. When Abraham says to Isaac, when he's about to sacrifice him, "My son," Isaac says to him, "Here I am." And this phrase gets repeated all through. It's not just this phrase of response, "Oh, I'm here." It's this phrase that also seems to have the deeper meaning, "Here I am, and I'm ready to do what you have in mind for me." It's a phrase that also somehow through the theme of Genesis implies submission. In verse 14 it says, "He said to him, 'Go now, see whether it is well with your brothers and well with the flock, and bring me word again.'" Now in verse 2, we see that Joseph is kind of the snitch. His brothers don't want to be around him. His brothers don't want to be working with him, especially after his dream about how he envisions working with them. So what kind of work is Joseph now doing? We know his father made a dress for him, and he's not out in the fields working. So that just leads credence to maybe Joseph's work isn't field work. Maybe it's around the house work. But he sends him out to his brothers because he's the snitch after all. And Jacob was kind of a snitch himself, wasn't he? He was kind of crafty as well. So maybe he values this in his son. He says, "Bring me word again." So he sent him out to the valley of Hebron, and he came to Shechem. A certain man found him, and behold, he was wandering in the field. The man asked him, "What are you looking for?" He said, "I'm looking for my brothers. Please tell me where they are feeding the flock." The man said, "They have left here, for I heard them say, 'Let's go to Dothan.'" Joseph went after his brothers and found them in Dothan. They saw him afar off, and before he came near to them, they conspired against him to kill him. Well, he is the snitch after all. They said to one another, "Behold, this dreamer comes. Come now, therefore, and let's kill him and cast him into one of the pits. And we will say, 'An evil animal has devoured him.' We will see what will become of his dreams." Reuben heard it and delivered him out of their hand and said, "Let's not take his life." Reuben said to them, "Shed no blood, throw him in this pit that is in the wilderness, but lay no hand on him, that he might deliver him out of their hand, to restore him to his father." Now, they're still going to throw him in a pit in the wilderness. And maybe Reuben is being altruistic here, but maybe not. Maybe he has something crafty in mind as well. Because we know that Jacob was crafty, that he exploited his brother as well. When Esau came in from hunting and Jacob was cooking, Jacob didn't just serve his brother a bowl, even though his brother said he was starving. He said, "Sell me your birthright first." And Esau did, because he said, "Can't you see I'm starving to death?" And so he sold his brother his birthright. And perhaps Reuben has the same thing in mind. Sure, he'll pull Joseph out of the pit, but maybe Joseph's dreams are from God. And if they are, maybe Reuben can steal that role from Joseph. So when Joseph came to his brothers, they stripped Joseph of his tunic, the tunic of many colors that was on him, and they took him and threw him into the pit. The pit was empty. There was no water in it. Now, this tells us it's not just a pit, it's a cistern, right? It's made for holding water. And it tells us what time of year it is. It's the dry season. And the cistern is empty because it's towards the end of the dry season. They sat down to eat bread, and they lifted up their eyes and looked and saw a caravan of Ishmaelites was coming from Gilead with their camels bearing spices and balm and myrrh going to carry it down to Egypt. Judah said to his brothers, "What profit is it if we kill our brother and conceal his blood?" Now, clearly, they're still talking about killing their brother when Judah says this. He says, "Come and let's sell him to the Ishmaelites and not let our hand be on him, for he is our brother, our flesh." Here, Judah might be somewhat more altruistic than Reuben. Even though he's not truly altruistic, he's selling his brother into slavery, right? He's not the good guy here, but he's not as bad as Reuben. And Reuben, well, he's not as bad as his brothers. And maybe that's all we're supposed to get out of this. His brothers listened to him. Midianites who were merchants passed by. And I have to wonder when I read this, what happened to the Ishmaelites? Did they just wander off? Did they just disappear? Midianites come along, and they drew and lifted up Joseph out of the pit and sold Joseph to the Ishmaelites. Wait a minute, now we're back with the Ishmaelites. Clearly, someone in the textual history of this book made a typo. Or maybe they're Ishmaelites from Midian, but Ishmaelites from Midian are still Ishmaelites. They're not Midianites. All right, for 20 pieces of silver, the merchants brought Joseph into Egypt. Reuben returned to the pit and saw that Joseph wasn't in the pit, and he tore his clothes. He returned to his brothers and said, "The child is no more, and where will I go?" They took Joseph's tunic and killed a male goat and dipped the tunic in the blood. They took the tunic of many colors and they brought it to their father and said, "We have found this. Examine it now and see if it is your son's tunic or not." Now, Reuben's reaction, it sticks with me. It makes me think that he had more planned. But they have the tunic. They know he's not dead. Judah sold him. So why does Reuben react the way he does? Why does he tear his clothes as if he's dead? He's lost something, but it's not just his brother. All right. Jacob recognized it and said, "It is my son's tunic. An evil animal has devoured him." Joseph is without doubt torn in pieces. Jacob tore his clothes and put sackcloth on his waist and mourned for his son many days. All his sons and all his daughters rose up to comfort him, but he refused to be comforted. He said, "For I will go down to Sheol to my son mourning." His father wept for him. The Midianites, however, sold him into Egypt to Potiphar, an officer of Pharaoh's, the captain of the guard. So, for those who don't know, Sheol is a Hebrew word, and it means the grave. It's often translated into Greek as Hades, and Hades is backwards translated into the Hebrew concept of Sheol. So Sheol is this idea of where all the dead go, the good, the bad, and the ugly, all of them go down to the grave in Sheol. So this is the Hebrew concept of afterlife, that we all go down to the grave. Now, I'm going to check and see if we have any participants. If anyone has any questions, go ahead and type in now. All right, so just a reminder, next week we'll be meeting at 5 o'clock in California time. So if you want to join us on YouTube and you want to have a Bible study in Genesis chapter 38, please join us online. And you can type in any questions you have on the side of the video, and we'll go ahead and try and answer them. Or if we can't answer, we'll pray over them. Because sometimes it's not finding the answer that matters, it's asking the question. I've certainly found in my studies that asking the questions year after year, that the questions change you. And sometimes the question is more spiritual than the answer. So next week we'll read Genesis chapter 38. Once again, you can join us on Restoration COC, that's Church of Christ, right? restorationcoc.org or churchofchrist.gay. The video will be at the bottom of the page, so please join us online for our Bible study. Sunday night, we'll have service at 5 o'clock, and you can join us online for that as well. So this will be the end of the live stream for tonight. It's been wonderful studying with you all. Hopefully I'll see you next week. God bless you.